Hello and welcome to yet a very special edition of ION 227 with our district superintendent, Dr. Johnny Thomas. I'm your host, Sean Howard. Once again, we're extremely excited about this new platform that is geared toward informing you, our Rich Township residents, of every aspect of our school district. This show, once again, will enhance communication efforts and provide transparency even as it relates to all district functions. I am so honored once again to have my co-host and our executive producer, Dr. Johnny Thomas. And look who we have here, Dr. Thomas. We have Andrea Bonds, our board president. We're so happy to have you here on ION 227. And you're no stranger to the district. But before I even talk to you, I want to know from you, Dr. Thomas, this Batman-Robin type relationship, if you will. Talk about the good working dialogue that you have with Mrs. Bonds.
Yeah, I think one of the strong points of having a strong leader such as President Bonds is making sure that we are in constant communication with each other and being able to have that consistency in leadership and helping to bring some consensus from the board to the administration so that we can carry that through the organization has been a partnership that we've been very, very proud of. I think the board's voice is loud and clear in terms of what it is that we're supposed to be doing, and President Bonds has done an excellent job of helping that voice be heard throughout the organization.
President Bonds, before we get to what many call just the business of the district and the vision of the district, to which Dr. Thomas eloquently laid out in our last show, we need to know who is Andrea Bonds. Tell us about yourself, your upbringing, your education, and what got you engaged with this particular district.
Okay, well, first let me say thank you for inviting me to come on.
Thank you.
So Andrea Bonds. So I am an attorney. I'm a criminal defense, I'm primarily criminal defense. I work for myself. I grew up in Indianapolis. I moved here after law school.
So you're a Hoosier.
I am a Hoosier. I went to Butler University and Indiana University for law school. We moved here after law school. I worked at the Cook County Public Defender's Office. And then about a year in, went out and started my own practice, and I've been doing that ever since.
You had forementioned about being a public defender, and I know that's a scenario to which was very challenging, obviously, because your budget is about that big, but your caseload is this big. How has that experience, you think, propelled you for this civic life in representing the school district?
Well, it's all about advocacy. And particularly in this district where we have a lot of children or families who are living at or below the poverty line. I think we're now at 100% free lunches at the schools. So you're dealing with people who are used to getting the least, and you're trying to give them the most that you can. And so that's always foremost in my mind when I was dealing with my clients, still when I deal with my clients, and now at the school district, and how we advocate for kids and what we want to provide for them.
And going back to high school through your collegiate career, talk about your upbringing, the neighborhood to which you grew up in, and how your parents instilled, I'm sure, some outstanding values, because we see that in your walks even throughout the district and beyond. Just talk about that a little bit.
Well, I grew up in Naptown, in the hood. My father's a pastor of the AME Church. My mother's a therapist. Yes. But I didn't grow up at PK. My father became a pastor when I was 21. Okay. And so, but we always, we were always in church. My parents told us we could do whatever we wanted to do, and they supported us in that, and I held them to that. I actually had my first child at 17, and then I had twins when I was going through college, so I went through, law school. Right. So I went through.
That was challenging.
All of that was challenging. But I had a lot of support from my family, from their father, and so hard work is something that I'm not scared of. I have a really high drive, and so, taking on this role with the school board is just part of that.
Would you consider having children at such a young age, but yet climbing the ladder of success and doing it perfectly as you've done, allows you to relate to some of the young girls in the district as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And talk about that.
So I definitely think about some of the challenges that our young ladies are facing. I think about, how they're navigating school, relationships with boys, their parents, some of the pressures that they have. And so whenever we're thinking about initiatives, maybe for the kids, and the board, we discuss the needs of our children. So I'm always thinking about our girls and what we can provide for them, particularly around STEM and other supports. We talk about creating mentorships. Some of our girls have a lot of challenges with behaviors. And so we think about ways and try to really support our administration in ways that we can support them so that, because they're having challenges that are different from what boys face.
Right. And District 227 at large, or the school district itself, what attracted you to want to become engaged with the education of children here and playing a role here on the board?
So my husband and I have 5 kids. 4 of them have gone through the Rich Township high schools. They all went to Rich Central and graduated. And so when it got down to, I have twins, and their, I think, senior years when I ran, I just saw there was a huge shift in what I saw and what was happening at the schools. Because I started, my oldest, I think she started at 2014. And then she graduated in 2014. Okay. So she started in 2010. So from 2010 to 2018, there were a lot of differences. And so as a parent who's also looking for ways to get involved in my community, I thought the school board was the perfect place for me to be.
Very good. Dr. Thomas, education sometimes takes paradigm shifts every 10 years in how you view education, how you attack education, and how you educate children at large. Talk about the role of superintendent and the president coming together to develop that strategic plan.
Yeah, so there's a lot of work that goes into developing the strategic plan. I think the role of the board is to making sure that we as the administrative team do everything we can to hear the voice of the community. And so there's a lot of stakeholder groups that are organized and put together, and individuals are recommended or put forth, and the board has a really strong sense of who those stakeholders are that could help propel the district forward. And so bringing all those people together, getting them all on one accord to work on behalf of our children, I think that is something that the board has been working on. But really the big piece that has been a tremendous success under President Bond's leadership has been working to hear the individual voices of each board member and giving them the power to act on the things that they would like to see the organization do, and then following through with that with me as a superintendent or with the administrative team. So really, really helping to amplify the board's voice, not one individual, not 2 individuals, not a group or a separate group, but one board, having them focus as one, I think has been absolutely an amazing feat over the last couple of years under President Bond's leadership.
Yeah, and to Superintendent Thomas's point, and he forementioned in our last show about some of the inherited challenges during his tenure over 5 years, and you kind of had to look at those inherited challenges as well. But when you hear from the community, what are some of the things that you actually hear from the community and things that they want to see, that they anticipate, or even their expectations?
Well, our community just wants our kids to do well. They want to have a school district that has a good reputation, a reputation for having kids that are going to excel academically, that are going to do well in sports, and that are going to get out leave high school and be successful in life, whether that be in college or in vocation or whatever they choose to do. One of the things that I heard and what was a real issue, and I think Dr. Thomas is speaking to it, is that when I started, this board had a terrible reputation. There was a lot of fighting amongst board members, and there just wasn't a lot of focus on the district and the work. And so we were able to get board members to really focus on what it is we're here to do. And I think that shows in the work that's happening and the community is responding. Right now, what I hear from the community more than anything is how excited they are about some of the changes that are happening, some of the work that they see happening for kids.
Yeah. You know, Dr. Thomas was kind enough to take me on a tour of our property out at Rich Township, well, rather Sauk Trail. And the people who live in that area have been amazed at the development of that particular project. You know, I'm fascinated about the football field, but that's just another. And he's a former football player, so you kind of knew the football field was going to be okay. But what is your viewpoint on the projects that you guys have kind of overseen, if you will, and STEM Center, just the football field, that entire campus is beautiful. Talk about how, from your own perspective, the importance that those particular projects will play in the lives of the children.
Well, it's creating excitement. It's creating a space that the kids are happy and excited to go to. They're proud to say, this is our school. My kids say, why didn't y'all do this when we were here? So they're a little upset about it, but they're still proud to say, this is ours. And then like the spaces that we're creating for the kids to learn, it's amazing. And you can see the difference that it's having right now with kids, and I can only imagine once we've completed it and things are really starting to move forward, we get past this COVID pandemic, just how much is going to be available for our kids.
Yeah. Dr. Thomas, in your role as superintendent, to have President Bonds and the board have that type of focus, keeping things in perspective, must make your job a lot easier, as opposed, and we know you're dealt with challenges all the time, but at least that's one particular aspect you don't have to have as much of a concern for.
Well, I think as it relates to the superintendent, whenever a board is operating on one accord, it's actually better for the entire community, not just the superintendent. It gives direction to the educational organization in terms of where it should be headed. And when there is synergy and energy that is truly focused on behalf of the learners, for me, yes, it does make it easier for me, but it really, really makes it better for children.
And while you're there, and the two of you can talk about just the overall vision, some of your top priorities collectively that you've talked about in private and public here, what are some of those?
Well, I think, for us, it's really making sure that our students have the ability to choose what's best for them post-secondary. So designing a system that's flexible enough that allows for us, if a learner wants to go into carpentry and become a carpenter or a plumber, they have the certificates and the support to be able to do that. But if they want to parlay that into an engineering or some type of architectural piece, they've been trained at such a level they can decide to do that as well. So making sure that we are exposing them to as many real world scenarios as we can, so that when it's time for them to go out post-secondary, there aren't a lot of surprises in what the world's going to bring to them.
Right. Anything that comes to your mind that you really enjoy working on in collaboration with Dr. Thomas?
Well, there's so many things. The end result is that I want to make sure, and along with the rest of the board, that our kids have an amazing high school experience, that they're safe, and that they leave us prepared for what's next, whatever they choose that to be. But some of the things that we are really enjoying, we're enjoying the fact that we're really hopeful that we'll at some point have a regional vocational center, the work that's going into that, the work that's gone into creating the spaces for the kids. What else?
Well, I know recently we had talked about the STEM Center, and I know you expressed a lot of enthusiasm toward that project. Maybe you want to talk about that.
Well, I mean, we were speaking about with girls, just enhancing the roles that girls play, or the education that they get around in the STEM. Science, technology, engineering, and math. When I was in school, I remember my teacher always pushing that, science with girls. But also, like we've talked about creating a legal career pathway, which is near and dear to my heart. And we got some lawyers involved and to talk about what that would look like for the school, and hopefully that'll take off soon. We've got our agricultural program that has gotten a lot of attention lately. Just a lot of exciting things.
Yeah, you know, recently, and we're now on the other side of Martin Luther King's birthday, and it was celebrated throughout Cook County, but particularly here in Rich Township. I was very excited about attending such an event here hosted by the Rich Township Democratic Party. And one of the aspects to which was discussed was the evolution and the upward mobility of African Americans now finding Rich Township for opportunity, housing, jobs, economic development, and other factors. But much of which centered back to education, because there are other parts of the state where you have predominantly African American areas, let's just be frank, that don't have the various programs that you have here at Rich Township High School District 227. And so the two of you come from eras to which, you know, you weren't exposed to this type of educational environment possibly in high school. How important it is for our students to understand, one, our history, and two, to understand how blessed they are to have such type programming right here in the school district, because Dr. Thomas made an excellent point in our last show, how kids here, you know, have the opportunity to discover and go about their trades right here while having their high school experience, propelling them to jobs and careers beyond their high school experiences here. Can you just talk about how important it is for African American students, our students of color, to have a quality education such as they have here at 227? It's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question. You said it was a loaded question. So when I think about like myself as a young student and learning about the civil rights movement and the efforts that were made, it was always important for me to get my education. Like I felt like I stand on the backs of others. And I think that similarly, when I think about the kids that are coming through school now, they're standing on our backs. And so I think we can tell them all day how blessed they are, but we really got to create it, and they got to experience it. And that's what we're up to. It's for them to really experience it when they're in the schools, so that they know it's not just us telling them, because this generation, you can't tell them anything. At least my kids are not. So we're about creating that experience for the kids.
Same question to you, Dr.
You know, I think when you think about the civil rights movement and the work that was done there, it was done by giants who decided to partner together, to get together and come together on behalf of African Americans everywhere. And I believe that in this time, in the time of social media and things of that nature, where it has really put a focus on the individual and has done a good job in separating us, I think what we have tried to put together as a focus is this mantra that we are stronger together. And I think if we forget about that history of coming together and approaching these very, very difficult issues together, we can accomplish a lot. But if we try to approach them as individuals, they seem almost impossible to overcome. So I think as we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King, I think it's also a time for us to remember as a community, division is not the way to go. If we're going to make great things happen in our community, we have to do it together.
Right. I want to reflect back to what I had mentioned previously, and I aforementioned about, you know, Dr. Thomas took me on this great tour. And of course we went to the football field first. Let's get that out the way. That's a disclaimer. But he appeared to be even more or just as excited about the culinary program. And I just wanted to hear your take on that, because it's been well noted in the papers of recent of how extraordinary that program is and how unique it is, especially for children, once again, of color. I go back to that. Those are the type of programs to which you don't see in many high school districts, particularly in minority neighborhoods. And I know you've had a chance to tour that area as well. What was your take on that? Because it's an excellent program, it's well managed, and you know, is the direction of that program, I mean, the sky is the limit with that program. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think it's a beautiful facility. I'm really proud of it. I know the kids are really proud of it, and they enjoy being in it and working in it and having that opportunity. agree. It's extremely well managed. I mean, some of the things that the kids are learning, it's more than just how to cook. It's about how to have a career in that area and all facets of it. And I just think it's amazing. I have a goddaughter that is at the FACT campus, and she came home and she's like, I think I'm considering being a cook. And she was really excited about it because she had met, I can't think of the director of the program, but he had told her all these things and shared some stuff, and she saw the facility and she was like, this is what I want to do. She's seriously looking into it.
Yeah, Dr. Thomas also showed me in that same tour how strategic even the children's approach to transitioning from class to class. They have IDs to which they use scanners to check in. That's a new modern way of doing things, and not many high school districts are accustomed to that, at least in predominantly African American and other minority neighborhoods. Is that the vision of the board too, to see the children come into this new modern way of thinking and all of their approaches to life?
Absolutely. And that's why we're doing it. That's something that, Dr. Thomas and our administration brought to the board. We got to view it at other schools. We got to talk to the kids there who were actually living in the flex schedule. We talked to the teachers, the administrators. And so we got to see the benefits that something like that has for students. And the board was 100% in.
And one last thing. With all the construction projects that are going on, and Dr. Thomas, he really laid the blueprint for this out perfectly, but is it the vision of the board, or at least one of the focus points, to ensure that there's African American and other minority representation in vendor contracts and things of that sort? Because those are very important aspects to which the residents want to know where they see themselves in this economic development project, if you will. Is that one of the visions of the board, to ensure that minority participation would always be a focal point?
100%. So when the consolidation and of the construction that we're doing, the board created a committee. It's called the Facilities Advisory Committee. It's comprised of a board member and people from the community. I used to be on it. I now handed that over to my vice president. But one of the focuses that committee brought in conjunction with the board is that we have to look at how do we increase minority participation. And so there have been huge initiatives with partnering with UJAMA, along with Pepper Construction partnering with UJAMA, and then working and holding, what do we call those? Their meetings that bring in and teach contractors. Okay. How do you go about getting a contract? Right. How do you bid? What are we looking for? And then
there's an educational component.
There's an educational component. It lets them know that we're doing it, and it also brings awareness to some of the larger contractors. Like here's some people you can partner with to get them the business, even if they don't get the contract.
Dr. Thomas, in closing, what's next for our district?
Well, coming soon here, within a couple of days, we are going to open our Early Childhood Center, which will be at the STEM campus. It will allow for our students, our staff, and the community to have childcare for their children, while our children learn how to teach in those environments. And so it's continuing that path of giving our students opportunities to practice careers before they actually get out there and decide that they're going to invest or spend money in that way. And so we're really excited about the Early Childhood Center. It's done in partnership, in conjunction with Loyola University. And so we can't wait for that program to start, and we're really excited about it.
That's great. And President Bonds, as it relates to the board, as you look at the future of the district, is there a message you want to send to the parents and to the residents at large about the direction of the district?
Well, just that as a board, we're going to continue to work together. We're going to continue to stay focused on our students and our community in every avenue that we're going as a district. And so one of the things that we focused on is increasing communication with our parents. And so we want to really start to continue to focus on that, so that it's not just the board's focus and vision. It's really the vision of the community. It's what they want. And so we look to hear from them, and then to take whatever feedback we get to Dr. Thomas and he takes it to the administration, and we make it happen.
It's a great team. Great, great. Well, I thank you for joining us today here on ION 227. You did a wonderful job in laying out the foundation and the direction of the board. And as always, our co-host and executive producer, he's always ready to go. So I want to thank the both of you. We'll have you back here, okay?
Okay.
Very good, very good. Once again, I've been Sean Howard right here on ION 227, along with my executive producer and co-host, Dr. Johnny Thomas. We want to once again thank President Andrea Barnes for coming and sharing with us. We would hope that you would tune in and visit our website for the other fascinating news that's going on within the district. And as we always say here, keep the faith.